Welcome back to HR Stew. My name is Regina Dyerly.
And I'm Holly Nells.
And this is HR Stew. Episode 4. Are you serious?
This episode is about the out of left field type of situations that HR can end up being involved in. While HR can be an insane field to work in, there are incidents, situations, and conversations that no education can prepare you for. So I have to ask, in your guys' careers, has there been a particular story that has made you ask, are you serious?
There are so many. I mean, in HR, in a pretty long career, there's been a lot of situations. Most of them I cannot speak of. I cannot repeat. And some are definitely make you question your life choices sometimes. Your career choices.
Why did I choose this path?
But let me think about how I could tell this story without revealing anything, without revealing too much, actually. There's this one situation where we had a new employee, this is years ago, who was having, somewhat erratic behaviors. And to speed up the story, she basically wasn't doing her job, wasn't doing any work, was going missing, having attendance issues. We ended up parting ways. It was cordial. The job just didn't seem to be a good fit for her. She was technically overqualified for the job. So several months later, we shockingly and sadly received an email from a family member telling us that she had passed away from a brain tumor. And it went into great detail about the end of her life and just a lot of detail. And the purpose of the email was that they were requesting her W-2 to settle her estate, right? So we were all so upset. We were wondering, was her erratic behavior because of this brain tumor? What else could we have done? Going down that whole path. But the detailed email made us feel really good about how her end of life was, and et cetera. So now I'm going to fast forward a year, and I am at a gathering at a friend's house. I looked across the room, and there was this woman that so strongly resembled this employee that I used to work with that it was shocking to me because she had pretty distinct features. And I commented to somebody, I'm like, God, she looks just like this woman I used to work with, but she passed away from brain cancer, and never spoke to her. There was enough people there that, I just didn't mingle with her. That was the end of that. Now, a few months later, I end up going to another gathering with similar people, and this woman is there, and this time I get introduced to her randomly. And I could see, I made eye contact with her. I knew it was her.
Did she have this look of like, oh no, I've been busted, or?
It's hard. I was going through so many thoughts in my own head. It was really difficult. I mean, I was thinking, you're supposed to be dead. Not even to like a brain cancer. We made eye contact. I was like, they said her name. I repeated it back. I was like, we work together. And I gave some stats and we had personal conversations. She relocated here. There was all sorts of stuff I knew about her, how many children she had, like all this stuff. I started rattling it off and she's nodding no the whole time. And then somebody else said something about it that confirmed that I knew it was her. But she just had such distinct features. There was no way. I was completely floored. And so here's the are you serious part. Basically, and so then when we thought about it, and of course, we forensically looked at the email and looked at all sorts of stuff because we're HR and this is what we do. And she was introduced to her last name, and actually, I did a little Googling and found out that was also a name of hers from marriage or whatever. She just wanted her W-2.
Just email and ask for your W-2.
Why? Just such a crazy story. Just to get a W-2, which we would have sent you 5 minutes after we got the email.
Yeah.
So that's my, are you serious? story. And I had to leave a lot of details out to not reveal, to leave the nameless.
Yes.
But to this day, there was a lot of other stuff that we uncovered prior to her leaving about her erratic behavior and just other stuff that we found out that the brain tumor actually made us feel better about our hiring decision at the time. And I was like, okay, we're back to that. Now we're just stuck in hiring.
Have you seen her since then at any other
No,
parties?
actually, she disappeared after that. She disappeared. So she was like a regular within this circle. She was dating somebody, an acquaintance, a friend of a friend of a friend,
Yeah.
type of thing. And they never saw her again after this.
Oh, wow.
So it was like the gig is up.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Isn't it?
The craziest one I have, there were two managers, and I'm going to name them Stan and Jane just for simplicity fact, and I need a
Stan.
name.
When was the last time you met a Stan?
I've never met a Stan.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to call them Stan and Jane for the sake of this story. The managers, they seem to be at odds with each other. From my first interaction with them and the owner, they just seemed to be vying for the same position. I'm not sure what was going on. The first major indicator that they were, trying to be better than one another, I received an email from Stan, and it was a recording of Jane having this whole conversation about how awful I was as an HR person and that the policies and procedures I'm implementing, she could do it and she could do it 20 times better, just going on and on and on, calling me every name you could possibly imagine in this email. Well, I had a conversation with the owner of the company, and I, disclosed that I don't really think she likes these policies and procedures that I'm putting in place and, my role within the company. And we continued on. I've been called many names in my career. I'm sure you have as well. And it is what
Not
it
to
is.
my face.
Well, this one wasn't to my face.
Actually, you know what? A couple times to my face.
Yes.
I don't know why I said that. That's not true.
So then fast forward a couple months later, I received this email from Stan, and it allegedly is from Jane. And Jane has sent Stan this email, and it says, it's just demeaning to Stan. There are racially inappropriate comments to Stan from Jane in this email. And it clearly says her name in there in the email address and, that it was created. So he had copied in the owner too. And I reach out to the owner, and she's like, well, what do we do with this information? Do we just fire Jane? She can't send this type of stuff. And I said, well, let's get to the bottom of this. Do we know for a fact Jane sent the email? So I am, I'm my wheels are turning, and I'm like, let's see if we can figure out where the IP address came from, where the email came from, if it was newly created. Let's see what kind of forensics how far we can dig in and find out. So the owner's like, okay. So she calls Stan, the owner does, and she's like, Stan, we're going to look into who sent this, why it was sent to you, what happened. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to figure out who sent it. And she, gave him this list of steps we were going to take. All of a sudden, he admits to creating a fake email in her name and sending it to himself to get her in trouble. I'm like, are you serious?
That is a definitely, are you serious? And so what was the repercussions of that?
He ended up resigning from his position. He
Couldn't take the heat.
He couldn't take the heat, and he resigned from his position. Why would you go to... Who has time to do all of that and create this big of a laundry list of horrible things to say about yourself to pretend it's from somebody else?
The internet is full of stories of professionals experiencing their own "are you serious" moments. I'm going to read these, and I want you to respond with your thoughts and how you might handle these situations if you were the HR director in them. This first story comes from Lily Liana, and her title is "Budget Conscious Management Wants Employees to Share Beds During a Work Trip."
No.
Okay, let's hear it.
She's working at a nonprofit with a sizable budget in the tens of millions and has been recently informed of the organization's travel expectations. For an upcoming conference they want her department of 8 to attend. They are expected to share 2 hotel rooms and have 4 to a room, meaning that each person will share a bed with a coworker and share a room with 3 coworkers. She is understandably concerned, but when she voiced feeling uncomfortable with this, they said the budget is tight and she needs to pay out of pocket for an alternative lodging. She is required to go on the trip for her role. Is there any HR policy or best practice on how to navigate this? I've never had someone insist that you need to sleep in the same bed as a coworker, and all types of privacy issues come up for me. Any thoughts would be great.
I'm kind of flabbergasted, actually. I mean, I worked for a company that expected you to share a room, like to double up. I actually wasn't even comfortable with that. but that was not sharing a bed with a
Right.
coworker in your pajamas or
Yeah. What if they grind their teeth and snore? You're right next
it
to
just
them.
changes your whole relationship with somebody. That's so bizarre
Yeah.
that they would want to put someone in that situation. I doubt there's a policy that speaks to that. And it's certainly not against any, I mean, I don't know what state they're in or any of that or country even, actually. I mean, that's like next level. Asking to double up in a room, I think is inappropriate. And I actually refuse to do it.
I would
It's
refuse
like
too.
understanding that it's on my work time, but I'm also my after work time. I'm expected to sleep here. You're not going to ask me to travel for work and expect me to share a room. And then to share a bed,
Are you serious?
there's no privacy. I mean, like 4 people in a room, like how are you supposed to get ready in the morning? 4 people have to shower? Like
What, and
logistically.
are they all women? Yeah. You'd have to get up 3 hours early.
Wow. I mean, I just, if you're requiring people to go, I mean, I probably would, if I was required, I would spend my own money, but I would be not happy about it. And I probably wouldn't stay at the company long term. Like
Yeah.
that is highly inappropriate.
I wouldn't, on a personal level, feel comfortable with that. I don't even when I go vacation with my friends. We don't sleep in the same room. We always get separate rooms because I need my time and my space to regroup and sleep and.
I share a room when I'm going on girls' trips. I will share a room, not a bed.
Girls' trips or trips with your husband and other couples?
On a girls' trip,
Okay.
I
There's a
will
difference.
share a room with somebody that I am comfortable with and familiar with. I will have my own bed. I'm also cheap. So I don't want to pay for my own room.
That's fair.
So that's the other thing. But work, I'm not sharing a room with anybody for work. We went to the SHRM conference together.
Yeah, we were on
I
a
was
different floor.
Not. That's true. See you later, Holly.
Story number 2 comes from user Strange Ferments, titled, "Everyone in my position gets to work from home 1 day a week except for me because I don't have children. I am obviously not satisfied with this answer, but I don't know the proper way to address it with my boss. I am a state employee in a very small office where the local boss essentially makes the rules. A quick Google search shows that family status discrimination is not prohibited in North Carolina, but it still seems like an unfair policy. My biggest problem with it is that I'm not asking for a day off to take care of children, which is apparently what he thinks work from home days are. I'm just asking for 1 day a week where I can work from home, which 95% of my work is on a computer, without commuting. As I said in the post title, everyone else in my position gets the privilege, but apparently it's only because they have children. What should I do about this?"
You could look at it as an unfair work practice. You're not treating everyone equally and equitably all across the board. You're not, evaluating, is the 1 day a week? I mean, he's not asking, or he or she isn't asking to work from home 5 days a week. They're asking for 1 day. And, if
They're asking for the same that everybody else is getting.
well, that too, yes. And I don't understand why the manager or his boss doesn't want to give this to him.
It's hard to say what people are thinking, but I'm not sure what recourse he's going to have if that guy's the law, essentially at that workplace. But certainly, I mean, why would that be criteria? So are you expecting people to work on that day? I get that's the real question. So if people with children are able to work from home, why wouldn't he be able to work from home? Because he potentially, if they're caring for their children, if that's the reason for them to work from home, he probably will be more productive than his peers with children, potentially, right? And that's maybe an inflammatory statement as well, actually. But I know when I'm working from home during the summer, when my daughter is home, I am not as productive because there's a lot of snacks and food requests. And I don't have a young child. But I don't know why, if he could do his job remotely, I mean, anytime you're looking at this criteria, the only reason why you'd not do it is because the position's not appropriate for that. So if his position is appropriate, why would they not grant that request?
Right.
It's very unwise.
Yeah, I don't know when this was written, but if it's recently, I mean, it's so hard to find good quality people. And now, if this is a deal breaker for him, who's to say he's not going to go off and find another job?
He's a state employee. Probably not.
I don't think so.
But probably not. I mean, there's usually a reason why people work there. Is it a pension? Is it what is it?
Yeah.
But I think most of these stories are fairly recent. So this is somewhat recent and timely. Not sure what recourse he has, but certainly, like you said, an unfair workplace practice.
Next story comes from a user titled "A Possible Task." This question comes from Florida. The title is Employer Asking for Proof of Disability to be able to use a handicap parking space. My employer is asking an employee to bring proof of her disability because she looks perfectly fine. The employee has a handicap decal issued by the DMV. Is this legal?
So handicap parking spaces are not something typically that as an employer you would have to deal with, right? Like the building has an appropriate number of handicap stickers, and if somebody has a handicap license plate, you should not have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Unless there's a situation where there's not enough, there's people that need handicap spots and there's just not enough just because they maybe potentially have a higher amount of people that need to utilize those spots. Yeah, I don't know why they would interfere. That's
So the employer,
icky. It's definitely very icky.
And they're asking for her to bring proof of her disability, not proof of her sticker status. Why couldn't she just provide, hey, this has my name, this is my registration, this is my decal. It gives all the information that I am okay to have that. Why wouldn't you just ask for that little piece of it?
It's like they're trying to get her to go through the ADA process.
And you could be opening up a whole other can of worms over
Not all
here.
disabilities are visible.
Yes.
That's pretty tricky. Look, like we know in the general public, like we know that people will utilize other people's cars.
Right.
And will utilize other people's stickers or their label or whatever to park in handicapped spots when they are not actually handicapped, right?
Right.
So who knows, maybe the employer had that situation happen previously and just dealt with a bad circumstance. Not everything is malicious. Sometimes it is, but not always. Maybe that's where they're coming from. Maybe they're just trying to validate that it's legitimate, but it is icky. Why would you want to broach that conversation with an employee?
And why not have a rational conversation where you sit down with somebody and you say, hey, this is what's, we don't have enough handicap parking spaces. We have a couple of customers that come in on a regular basis. We know they need to use these. Can you park in the back? Work out a problem resolution solution.
So assuming, I'm making an assumption that this is a larger company. I don't know. But usually there's separate employee parking and customer parking. Right. So that might not even be the reality.
Maybe the employer is just wanting to be a right fighter. And I know, that nothing appears to be wrong. So I know you shouldn't be parking in handicapped spots. So I'm going to ask for documentation. And is that really the type of employer you want to work for long term?
Not really.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, if they have a handicap license plate, if that's what we're dealing with, and they are parking in a handicapped parking spot, I would not recommend questioning them about it.
Story number 4 comes from user Ohio-Angler-330. So you can probably guess the story's from Ohio. The title is Coworker Snuck Up and Cracked My Back by Surprise. Instant back pain. This coworker asks to crack our backs frequently, and sometimes my supervisor and I let him. Today, he snuck up behind me, lifted me up, and cracked my back, and I yelled for him to stop because it instantly started a stabbing pain in multiple places on my back. I get along with his coworker, and I don't want to start problems between the company and him, but also don't want my back to feel the way it is or for it to happen again. I advised him to never do it again, but he's not very intelligent or socially adjusted, so I am concerned that he will do it again. I am unsure of what to do. I've already informed my supervisor in case my back gets worse, but I'm not exactly sure if this falls under the category of workplace injury if my back doesn't stop hurting. What would be the correct steps to take, or should I just hope my back stops hurting and let it go?
File a first report of injury and let the work comp provider decide.
Definitely. They should have definitely opened up a workers' comp claim for this person for sure. But what a bizarro, I don't even know what you want to call that. He wants to crack other people's backs. Is that a chiropractor? I don't know why she would have agreed to that to begin with, or he agreed to that to begin with.
Well, and one of the things that gets me is, that he advised him to never do it again, but this particular person is not intelligent or socially adjusted. So maybe he has some sort of disability, and you've allowed it a couple of times. So now I think this is a social norm because I have a learning disability and don't understand the social norms of a workplace interaction. And just having that conversation with your manager and the employee who I'm just guessing maybe has some sort of intellectual disability and doesn't have those social norms and those social cues.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, they set a precedent that it was okay behavior for him, right? She or he said that it was okay for him to do it. So why would he have thought this one time that it wouldn't have been?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely file a workers' comp claim for this person so they can get the treatment they need, and definitely set some parameters around getting your back cracked by a coworker that's not a board-certified chiropractor.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer we don't offer medical, advice or chiropractic service to anyone in the organization at any time. But
That's true. Well, that's going to bring this episode to a close. Thank you all so much for listening to HR Stew. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you have any crazy HR stories or questions you'd like to share, message us on Instagram at hr.stew. I'm Regina.
And I'm Holly.
And we'll see you next time on HR Stew.